Hey guys, yeah, I've got a lot of Apex equipment, so I wanted to talk about what I've got and whether I think it's worth it or not. What's good, what's bad, and spoiler alert, there's not a lot of bad, but I got a ton of stuff here that I wanted to speak to you about, let you know how I use it, what difference has it made to my lifestyle, what difference has it made to the tank and the corals and the fish inside, and give you an overview of how I'm using it and how I could not live without it, having owned one. So let's get started. I'm going to take all these boxes away and go through them one by one. So first and foremost, the Apex system itself. So what this gives you is Wi-Fi connectivity back to your tank. It comes with four probes, temperature, salinity, and ORP. So that measures your the amount of oxygen that's in the tank. Comes with those probes out of the box. Sorry, pH as well. Comes with pH. Comes with those four probes out of the box, and they work pretty good. I'd say that, that some people report that salinity probe doesn't work too well. I'd say that I'm on the fence with that. It does give completely different readings than your refractometer. But if you look into the ways that the refractometer works, right, it's completely different to the way that a probe that measures conductivity works. So I think the best way that I got my head around whether it was working or not is whatever it reads, right, make that your reading. Does that make sense? And then, you know, make up your salt in line with the Apex probe. Now you're going to say, why do you do that? You don't have an Apex probe that goes in your mix that you're mixing up for your water changes. Well, get yourself a Hanna checker, because that works in exactly the same. And what I found is that my Hanna checker reads exactly the same as the Apex salinity probe all the time. I don't use a refractometer anymore. I don't even care whether the refractometer is exactly right and the other two probes are off. My reading is what that probe in the tank does from Apex and the Hanna checker. And because they work, that's my reading. So I hope you understand what I mean. That's kind of my baseline. Next thing, it's got a bunch of power outputs on here. Enables you to monitor how much wattage or amperage you're putting through. You can control your pumps, you can control some lights, others you can't control through it. There are modules which will come on later to enable you to do that. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but in essence, right, it allows you to monitor the main parameters of your tank, right, the ones that I just talked about, from anywhere in the world. You can turn pumps on, you can turn pumps off, you can turn your lights on, you can turn your lights off, you can control your skimmer. Everything is done through this Apex system here. This is kind of the brains of the system. I've got it mounted to a board that I got from Marine Depot. I think it was like 30 or 40 bucks. It looks horrible. I don't have the room to put it, but when I get my new tank with a big enough sump, everything will go inside of here. But this thing is genius. It will send you alerts, text messages. You can set up your own routines. I'm not going to go into the complete ins and outs of this. All I want to say is, for everything else to work, pretty much, you need the brains, which is the Apex controller. Oh yeah, I mean, you can access it on your iPad, on your PC, and it just works. I've never had this thing give me any connectivity problems, other than when I've had connectivity problems myself. I can't say the same. I have a Reef link upstairs, and that thing, you know, hardly ever works, right? You have to reboot it, restart it, whatever. This works flawlessly, or has done, touch wood. So that's the first thing, right? The Apex controller. If you're gonna get an Apex controller, you got to get a Trident. Now these things are like unicorns. They're becoming a little bit more available now. They're not cheap, but this thing will check your calcium, your alkalinity, and your magnesium. This here in conjunction with the DOS DDR is the reason, one of the main reasons my tank looks like it does in such a short period of time. This was a game changer for me. I was forever chasing alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, right? And my corals hated it. My fish, not so much, right? They didn't really care about those levels, but the corals, right? And that's why we all keep these reef tanks, right? It's to keep corals. They didn't like the manual dosing one little bit, right? It was very hard to keep check of the results of your dosing. This thing has been a game changer, and you see what I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass, right? You see what my tank looks like, and that's not because I'm a, you know, some wizard in reefing, right? It's like that because of the products that help me do that. I'm busy. I got to work all day, right? I work long hours. I'm, you know, sometimes working, you know, in the evenings when we get calls to come through. This thing automates all that testing kind of stuff for me. It saves a lot of time, and it is absolutely superb. It comes with a month's worth supply of reagents. Then you have to buy the reagents on a monthly basis, and they're not cheap, right? But there's nothing else to match it. There was one or two things that out there that profess to do the same kind of thing. I know, you know, one of the companies went into liquidation, and there are a couple of companies out there that do it, but I don't personally know anyone with anything else other than the Trident, so I can only tell you my experience with this and not compare it to other products. But this has been a game changer for me, and if you're going to get the Apex controller, right, you really need this. This is what it's all about. The Apex controller and this working hand in hand. The DDR and the DOS. These two things. So this is what does my dosing, the DOS system, and that works hand in hand with the Trident and the Apex controller. You can program it to dose whatever you want at whatever time period. There's so much you can do with this. I don't do half of the things that, or a quarter of the things that are advertised this can do. It'll even look at your historical dosing of whatever you dose, right? For me, it's alkalinity, calcium that I dose in here. But I don't dose magnesium, although the Neptune reads magnesium. This will even look at your historical data that you've been using, and it will just maintain a constant level for you using previous readings. It's amazing. I don't actually use it like that. I'm going to start using it like that very soon. I wanted to get a good few months worth of data in there before I started playing around with stuff like that. But this and the Trident, like I say, if you have an Apex controller, right, you're doing yourself an injustice if you don't get a Neptune system. I know it's a lot of money, but trust me, make this a must-have for your reef tank. Then the DDR, you don't need these, right? They're a nice to have. You can have your homemade dosing vessels. I just wanted to have everything Neptune branded, right? I didn't want to go with any other companies or make my own. This has sensors in here as well that will tell you when your additives are running low. They are big. They don't look great. I must admit. I know people put lights in them. I think they would look better if I had them in a dedicated cabinet with lights in there. You know, pimp my tank. But I'm not about that at the moment. But in terms of usability, right, they're really simple. They have this little plastic lid. You fill it up. You program into the Apex system how much additives you put in there, and it will tell you when you need to replace them. So, like I say, this is not a must-have, but I like to keep everything branded the same. So that's the DDR, the Core 20 pump. So full disclaimer, I'm not running this yet. I'm still running an Ecotech M2. When I get my new tank, I'll be using this, right? And again, it's all about keeping everything branded and connected to the Apex system. Yes, the Apex will be able to control my Ecotech pump. I don't use it to do that. I use the Reefing system at the moment. Again, when I get my new tank, I will be using this Core 20 pump. It's a great pump. I hear great things about it, and again, completely controllable through the apex. Everything works seamlessly. That's one thing I should mention. When you see all this gear, and when it comes through the door and you set it up, you think, oh my god, this is going to be a pain to set up. The way that they've implemented installing everything, be it the Trident, be it the leak detection system, is child's play. It is absolutely simple. They're step-by-step guides. You run through it on your mobile phone or you know, on your laptop or on your iPad, and you can't mess this up. It tells you every single step of the way. There are videos, very informative. That's one thing about this company, right, is that they go above and beyond when it comes to the instructions and the guides that you know, guide you through setting up this gear. So Core 20 pump. The Wave system, 2 mighty pumps in here. They're huge, absolutely huge, and this comes with a 1-link device as well. I don't run these in my tank. As you know, I run the MP40s. I did try putting these in my 100-gallon, but they are just way too powerful. I can't remember what these put out, and it probably says somewhere on the box, but I think it's something like 1,400 gallons an hour is the lowest setting. I put just one in my tank, and it blew corals everywhere, just even on the lowest settings. Now, I understand that I could have put them in my tank and angled them in a way such that it wasn't blowing corals anywhere, but I didn't want to mess around with that. These are going in my new tank for sure. One thing I don't like about these is the fact that they have cables. It's not the magnet system, right? So you've got cables running into your tank. I don't like that at all. One thing I do like about this is it's just one cable running the 2 pumps. So, you know, if you've got to put up with the fact that it's got cables, well, only one cable is going to run to 2 pumps. You don't have masses of cables running everywhere. But I have had these running. They work great. There's profiles that you can download for them. You can angle them up and down. So that is one advantage over the Ecotech product in the MP10s or 40s or whatever. You've got 60s. Can you get MP60s? I think you can. These you can angle them up and down, so that's pretty cool that you can do that. I don't have them in my tank yet, but these will definitely be going in when I get my new one. The PMK monitor. So this is a par meter for the Apex system. I toiled over getting this versus one of the more expensive handheld units. Do I regret getting this? Kind of. Once you have this set up on your Apex system, there's a couple of things. One, it takes 1 minute, the Apex system, to read a new kind of par reading. Now I know there's a way of doing it so you can get instantaneous data, but I don't know how to do that. But you have to wait a minute for the par reading to update. So you're sitting there with the sensor under the water and waiting, and then your iPad goes dark, and it's a pain. And also, I can't take this upstairs to check par readings in my cube. So I'm you know, in the situation where I can only use this in one tank. Yes, it's less than half the price of one of those $500 handheld ones. That's why I got it, to be honest, is that I couldn't justify the $500 to have a handheld par meter that I could go upstairs and take readings on my 10 nano cube. I mean, I can see very easily in that cube what's doing great and what's not doing great, you know, that's been determined by how much light is coming through. But it's good, it works really well, it gives good readings. I think it uses the same sensor as those $500 ones, if not the $500 one, the one that's down from that. Works great. Do I regret buying it? Maybe I should have got the big $500 one, but for what it is, for the money you pay, it's a good product. And you can actually leave this in your tank all the time. It comes with a little fake rock that you can put the sensor in and put it in your tank. But again, it's the wires, and from a visual perspective, I don't want that sitting around in my tank all day. A couple of these actually, these are the magnet units. They're called the magnetic probe racks, and I have one for all my sensors that come with the Apex controller, except my salinity sensor. I don't run that in the same sump chamber as the rest of the probes. I actually run that in the first sock chamber because I want high flow water and I don't want any bubbles going in there. That's the reason I run the salinity probe in that first chamber. I have 2 of these. The other one I use for the dosing. I have the alkalinity and the calcium dosing. In fact, you can just hear the Neptune, the Trident going off behind me. He's doing its 2 o'clock test, like clockwork. 2 o'clock every day, 6 o'clock every day, and then 6 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning also. So a couple of these, I've got 2 of these. Now, 2 things that I'm not using. Firstly, the WXM module for the for lights, right? These will work. These will have or allow you to run radions and the 26 HDs. Ecotech, in their infinite wisdom, took the ability for the new lights to be connected via Wi-Fi. It's all now Bluetooth, so this is pointless. Pretty much wasted my money on this. I've not even opened the box, so I'll probably end up selling this. I can't tell you what it was like or whether it works because I've never used it. I use on my 26s right now the Reef link to control the lights, but I guess if you had radions or you know, a set of lights that would take advantage of this, it would be pretty good if you wanted it to run all under the Apex or Neptune umbrella. And then lastly, I was going to set this up today actually. This is the leak detection kit. Again, comes with one of these one-link modules. This comes with 2 probes, and you can set them up wherever you want, and this will send alerts to your phone, to your computer. It will send you emails. It will give you an audible alarm. It'll also show an alarm on the Apex app or on your PC. I think everyone should have one of these, and I'm an idiot for not setting it up sooner, to be honest. This could potentially save you a lot of money in terms of floods in your house. I forget how much this is. I don't think it's that much money, to be honest. Well worth having. What I have in there now is these water detection things you can get from Home Depot. They come with like a battery pre-installed in them, and they have 2 metal sensors on the bottom. I have one of those in my tank right now. But I might put this in today, seeing as it's my day off, and get this up and running. So that's what I have, right? That's all of my Apex gear. My only regrets, and they're not even regrets, or my only doubts over stuff that I should have bought was maybe I should have got the handheld par meter. But for the money, right, this works absolutely perfectly, and that's pretty much it. This whole system has changed the way that I manage my tank. It really has. And I would advise anyone to get an Apex controller. They really are superb bits of kit. But if you get one, like I said previously, I think you're doing yourself an injustice if you don't get the Trident to go along with it and the DOS. You don't have to get the DOS, right? There are other dosing pumps that will work with it, but why bother, right? Why, get something from the same company. Yeah, they're a little bit noisy, but it's not like they're running all the time. It'll do automatic water changes for you as well, but that Trident has changed the way that I manage this reef as a whole. Keeping my tank stable through the Trident and dosing those the alkalinity, the calcium, and keeping an eye on magnesium has changed the way that my tank looks, and it become very apparent very quickly that this system was awesome, and I would advise, if you can afford it, to go get yourself one. So there you go. That's my look at all of my Apex Neptune Apex equipment. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really need you guys to subscribe. If I'm gonna make this YouTube channel a success, I'm gonna need your help. So hope you enjoy the content. It's not as professional as everyone else's. I'll get better, I promise. That's me done.